So Preston, folks may want to know like what resources do we have available? How
Mm.
can they like actually lean in and like facilitate a JXP group? Those kinds of questions. Let's talk about it. So let's
Yeah.
start with the resources. What's available?
Yeah. Well, if you go to thejesusxp.com,
Okay.
that's where you can order the framework. That's where you can get videos
Okay.
and all that stuff. And there's community options, joining community, all of that.
You use that term framework. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that?
So the framework is it's just packaged in a way that is helpful for anyone who's in the church, or I would just say that's saying I need to establish JXP as a rhythm,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So each gospel it breaks up into 8 weeks.
Okay.
All right. There's a check-in when you sit down.
Yep.
That's part of the framework. There's a check-in. Hey, how did you sense Jesus inviting you in?
Yep.
Through the last week as you practice whatever the practice was that week before.
Right.
And then you're going to read part of that gospel together as you're
Right.
moving through it. So in 8 weeks, you're reading the
So
entire
every
gospel.
time we come together.
Yep, we're going to read.
Okay.
And then we're going to practice Lectio Divina,
Yes.
where we're reading it slowly 3 times.
Right.
And we're actually experiencing those words and invitations through your head, your heart, your hands.
Yeah, the living word is with us. And
That's
we're
right.
encountering that.
That's
okay,
right.
Great.
Yeah, and you're doing that together.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does reveal when that's uncomfortable. Why is that uncomfortable?
Yeah, like what's happening there?
Well,
Yeah.
it's because it's not a check mark. It's an experience.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So you do Lectio Divina together.
Okay.
Then you ask a few questions. And there's some questions. There's 3 questions, like guiding questions
Right.
in each section. But the hope would be you don't have time to get to the questions because you're naturally going, this doesn't settle well. I don't know if I think that way. I don't know what my response would be. But if you need to use the questions, they're there, right? They're guiding questions.
And related to that, would you say the hope is that the guiding questions might actually produce something in us where we live into questions a lot more?
That's right.
Where even like a JXP group might come up with their own questions.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, JXP groups can order practice cards, and some of those cards are what practice would you be writing down now?
That's cool.
Right. So
Yeah.
so there's ways of, we want you to own JXP.
Yeah.
Like it's helping you become an apprentice, not
Right.
helping the brand do anything.
That's
right?
great.
So the framework is there's the check-in, there's the reading, you do Lectio Divina, you ask questions, and then there's a practice.
Right.
And that's where you just say, okay, the practice this week is whatever that practice is. And the practice correlates with the text you just read.
Yeah.
So you can imagine when you read that Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath.
Right.
And then the practice is take a Sabbath.
Right.
Like 3 8-hour blocks back to back to back.
Right.
And then we're tempted to go, wait a second. How about I just take like from 5 p.m. on Friday to Saturday morning? How about I just like put my phone away? And you go, no.
Right.
That's not making Jesus Lord of the Sabbath.
Yeah.
So that's the framework.
I love
and then
that.
you come back together.
Yep.
And this is what we tell our JXP group. We say all the time, if you don't like the practice, you can always return to the other way of life. Okay. You can go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we think that you'll find this is the good life.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
What have you discovered or maybe heard from others who are hosting JXP groups experiences? Are there some things you've noticed like, hey, it seems like an optimal group size is about?
Oh, sure.
How long it lasts works really well for most people. Again, we know it can vary, but are there some things you've noticed or others have noticed that maybe folks would find helpful?
Yeah, and there's actually some Barna research recently behind the length of groups. So people who have been in groups for a while, they don't mind a group that goes to 2 hours.
Right.
Okay, people who have not been in groups, so if it's their first time, they would like the group to end at 45 minutes and give them the decision to stay or leave.
Right.
Okay, so if you're leading a group, maybe keep that in mind.
Give them a safe word, right? It's like,
yeah.
I love that.
And then you could kind of say, too, the optimal group size, what's discussion based.
Right.
So I don't know. I would say, Justin, anything more than like 15 feels like you might be compromising the integrity of that dialogue.
Right.
And you could have, I mean, if you and I added 2 or 3 more chairs here, for me, that's optimal.
I actually love that you said that. The very first JXP kind of experience, what became this, it was about 4 to 5 people.
Yeah.
Little clusters of people.
Yeah.
So I think you're spot on. And I heard from one friend, I don't know if you've heard this, like imagine though some of you have 15 people. I remember, and someone told me they basically gathered together and they did some things together, but then they they broke that bigger group into smaller groups. So again,
Yeah.
you can tailor it to whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that true conversation or those guiding questions, yeah, there is a reality there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.